Naj najprej predstavim našega prvega govorca, ki se nam danes pridružuje preko spleta iz Singapurja. Dear Mr. Jean, welcome to our conference and let me introduce you in Slovene language. Gospod Jean Tan je glavni knjižničar Nacionalnega knjižničnega odbora, v okviru katerega skrbi za strokovni razvoj vseh knjižničarjev. Kot glavni direktor za inovacije vodi razvoj Libraries and Archives Blueprint 2025. Nove preoblikovane verzije za nacionalno knjižnico, Narodni arhiv in splošne knjižnice v Singapurju. Trenutno je izvršni kreativni direktor osrednjega dogodka ob obeležitvi 60. obletnice Singapurja, The Heart and Soul Experience. Predtem je bil gospod Tan direktor urada za obeležitev 200-letnice začetkov Singapurja, ki so jo praznovali leta 2019. Kot kreativni direktor je zasnoval zaključni dogodek ob 50. obletnici Singapurja, The Future of Us Exhibition. V preteklosti pa je vodil tudi Narodno knjižnico Singapurja, kjer je razvil projekt Singapore Memory ter opravljal funkcijo predsednika Singapurskega knjižničarskega združenja. Dear Mr. Tan, I have just presented your inspiring career to the audience. It is our pleasure to give you the floor. The title of your presentation is Riding the Beast, Librarians Supercharged by AI. The stage is yours.
Thank you very much. Okay, let me try this. Let me know if this is correct. Dober Dan, is that correct? I'm not sure if I got it right.
You nailed it.
Thank you. Okay, thank you so much to my friends in Slovenia. It is so wonderful to be here. I'm going to take you through a little journey, and then after that we have questions and answers, and we can talk a little bit more. So why did I choose the word riding the beast? The reason is that a lot of people are terrified by Gen AI, and in Singapore, a lot of the creative industry is feeling under threat, and some people are feeling that their jobs are at risk. So I wanted to take this title, Riding the Beast, to say, rather than to face the beast, to face down the beast and be at war with the beast, how do we use Gen AI to further things that the librarians have been dreaming about for generations but have not been able to succeed? Let me take you through the different parts of the presentation. So first of all, I wanted to share with you, there are 3 lines of businesses. So the National Library and Archives Board in Singapore has 3 components. The first is we are a public library system. So all the public libraries are run by this board. And we have 28 public libraries of different sizes going up to about 11,000 square meters. We have the National Library, which, as you are very familiar with, is a preserver of Singapore's print and literary heritage, as well as a reference library. It also includes a legal deposit, which includes electronic legal deposit. And the third is, and this is quite unusual, I think only a few library systems in the world are like that, and that's the National Archives. So we are the custodian of Singapore's documentary memory, especially our public and private records. So these together form a system. This is important because what I'm going to share with you for generative AI is leveraging the collections, the content, as well as all the public-facing opportunities that these 3 institutions have. But first, what is Lab 25? So earlier, the lady who introduced me talked about the Libraries and Archives Blueprint 2025. We call it for short Lab 25. And the reason is Lab really is the spirit. Lab is experimental. And when we started this project in 2021, we were in the midst of COVID. And in COVID, I think the libraries all have to change the way that we operate. And we thought in many years, we come up with what we call a master plan. And master plans will span like 5 years, 10 years, and it'll be a giant sort of document with a lot of material inside. and a lot of the plans will be spelled out in great detail. So with COVID, we realized something. So the librarians and archivists in Singapore realized that, we really can't predict what's going to happen. And sometimes you can't even predict what's going to happen in about a year. So when Gen AI hit, how do we respond to it? A long time ago, when social media hit with Facebook I think it's 2024, how do you respond to that? When the iPhone came out in 2007, could you have anticipated that? It's something that we can't. So we thought it was more important to be agile in how we respond than to plan 5, 10 years in advance. So we created Lab 25 with that spirit. And the spirit is we are going to experiment, we are going to prototype, and we'll learn from that. Yeah, and the way to learn and to prototype is to do it with partners in the industry so that we're not just in the library world looking at what we're doing and being very pleased with ourselves and our mission, but you're challenging yourself with the best people in the industry to achieve what sometimes might be impossible if you do this on your own. So before I get into Gen AI, because I know that's something that you'll be very interested to know, I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the other experiments that we did under Lab 25. So first, we do a lot of things that are in the library because the physical library and the sense of being there with someone in person is still very important to us in Singapore. I am always very worried about a person being consumed by screen time and being isolated. So being at a physical library is very important. So we created these experiences, like this giant piece of artwork is by a very talented local artist. They did a version of all the landmarks in Singapore into one giant art piece that faces the entrance of our city library called the Central Public Library. So with your phone, you're able to interact with it and be able to receive augmented reality information on each of these landmarks. You can even do a little quiz to see whether you know the landmarks well. And these are landmarks that cut across not just the city but also other parts of Singapore. So well, this is something that you might have done. So interesting, but the idea is to create a very physical environment. We also created a library where you could go through and pick up books, but at the same time, you could also play games and find out more about Singapore's culture. So this is something we call Singapore Elco. So in Singapore, our short form is SG. So previously, we'd have shelves and shelves of collections related to Singapore. So they're just books for people to look at. And we thought, okay, let's do it a little differently. So in between the books, there'll be major characters. So these characters are modeled after not famous, well-known animals in Singapore. So each animal is a character type, and they'll take you through all the different parts of Singapore and unearth historical as well as local information on Singapore. And as a result, our consultation of this collection has gone up many, many fold. Yeah, in a way, it's using technology not just for its own sake to wow the audience, but using technology as a way to keep the audience a little bit longer in your library so that in the end they will pick up maybe not something digital but a physical form, a physical book. Yeah, so it's something that we like to call in Singapore, and it's not a very nice term, but it's the best way to describe it. We call it phygital. So it's physical and digital. It's the phygital experience. And something that we realized through our statistics, I don't know whether it's true in Slovenia, is that people who use your services, both physical and digital, the digital customers we call them, end up being a lot stickier. They stick with you longer. They don't drop off in the next year or so. Person who only uses digital or only uses physical. Yeah, so digital customers is something that we are trying to drive uh, all our users towards so that they can stay with us longer and it will be a lot more difficult for them to drop the library. Okay, now I talked about social media earlier, so I'm going to share a little bit about what we are doing with our recommendation and search engine. And after that, I promise you I will go into generative AI. So for social media, we thought, okay, so when social media came, it was something that took a lot of people away from other kinds of entertainment. So a person could be on social media for a very, very long time, and they could see video after video in TikTok, or they could be looking at advertisements that's coming to you on Facebook, or they could just be looking at pictures in Instagram. And one thing that we realized, which is very dangerous, is that it sucks a person in. And when it sucks a person in, they will also start to be fed a lot of material that answers to their interests. So in social media speak, they call it rabbit holes. You just keep going deeper and deeper. And as you get deeper and deeper, the material that is served to you actually confirms what you believe in. And I like to think sometimes that is the beginnings of what the world is like today, when you have opposing forces that are unable to meet, unable to understand, unable to appreciate. So what do? We thought, why don't we try using social media and the mechanisms of social media to figure out how to reinvent the library? So before Gen AI, we started using social media. And this is what we did. We created um, we created our mobile app, and this is an experiment. It's not rolled out yet. We tested with tens of thousands of people. So in social media, you know that you got this infinite feed that you just keep going, right? It doesn't stop. And as you go, you're very tempted to keep going to see more. So we worked with, and I can't say who it is, but I will just say that it's a major social media giant. So we work with a social media giant. We use their recommendation engine. We applied it to our content. So in this new experiment, when you go into our mobile app, which is the place where you find new books, find new content to consume, we use that social media uh, giant's recommendation engine to feed things to you. The difference is that instead of feeding you a video of, I don't know, cats having fun, or, children, cute kids, or, people falling down, that sort of thing. Instead of doing videos like that, we're serving you content. We're serving you videos from our national archives on old Singapore. We're serving you books, fiction books, non-fiction books that might be interesting to you. You pictures, historical pictures from our National Library. And I am very happy to say that from our experiment, it has worked extremely well. The way that we've shaped it is almost like a social media. You can look at it here. It looks like social media. It's like Facebook, Instagram, and you keep scrolling. But rather than getting you hooked on something that might make you perhaps a little bit more narrow-minded, what we hope to do is to expand your horizon so you'll be able to consume more and more good content from the library. And I have to say the results are very, very good. There's been a huge increase in how users have picked up and consumed our books, our photos, our videos. Our videos, especially our historical videos from National Archives, have proved to be very, very successful. So with all this in mind, doing what we call the phygital aspect of the library, and then using what the social media tech giants are so good at, but using it for our purposes and reinventing our core business of search and discovery, we looked at a very big issue that is troubling a lot of people. Okay, so Gen AI, very important, but Gen AI in a way is something that we thought we could use the core business. So I'm going to start with something called Gen Experience. So in the library, the experience of the library is getting more and more important. In Asia, there are a lot of bookstores that are now, I would say, less bookstores but more experience. So when you go there to experience how fantastic it looks, then you would also in the process immerse yourself in the bookstore. And this is something that we picked up. So we created something called StoryGen. Okay, so StoryGen is storytelling of classic tales from Singapore, reimagined. So we said, okay, how do I reinvent the storytelling experience for Singapore? And also, how do I reinvent the way that a person discovers content that may be sitting on the shelves for a very, very long time and no one's picking it up? So we created StoryGen. So how does it work? we ask the users to choose some stories, and these stories are out of copyright stories. And then what they will do is they will choose the story, and using Gen AI, this story that they choose can be modified in terms of its characters, its genre, even the ending can be modified. At the end of the day, it could also become more Singaporean. So you could add in Singaporean humor and all that. So a story like The Wizard of Oz would appear to be uh, a very Singaporean version that will respond to the user. And the way that it is shown is that you appear as a 5 panel sort of comic book that's giant size in the room. You see it, not just yourself, but also everyone who's in the room will see it. So it becomes a very social experience, and the finalized story is something you could also download. While we are doing that, we also thought this is a great opportunity for our users to know more about Gen AI. So around you while you're waiting for a story to come out or you're queuing for your turn to try StoryGen, you would get information about generative AI, its potential, but also what to look out for. Because Gen AI has a lot of other pitfalls or shortcomings that is very important for you to be aware of. So it was an experiment that we tried in one of the libraries. It was wildly successful. I think 95% of respondents actually found it very, very fun. And they also liked the idea of it helping them to discover another author. So we started with copyright-free content, but subsequently we started to approach authors to say, would you like to be discovered in another way? We've tried book displays. I think for librarians, we do book displays all the time. So, we have book displays to help people to borrow books and all that. Or we'll have advertisements on social media. But then we thought, what if this is a great way for a person to understand a Singaporean author more? So we worked with a Singaporean author who wrote a special piece for us, and this was a horror story. It's a ghost story. So you got one of the top ghost story writers in Singapore to create a base story. So the base story is ingested into generative AI. And then in line with Halloween, we went to this amusement park. We put up a booth that looks very, very horror-like. And then when you go in, there's sound effects and all that. And when you do StoryGen, it generates a ghost story that's told to you. At the same time, we introduce the author so that you are able to discover more about the author. So all that helps us to create a sense of place, but also the sense of a social experience. And at the end of the day, you get to discover an author that you may not discover on your own. So that's StoryGen. Okay, then what else can we do? Then we thought, okay, what about the other core business? So one core business for us is helping a person to discover fiction and also helping a person to experience storytelling a different way. So the other core business of our library is our reference services. How can we use Gen AI to help us with our reference services? And this is where we created something called Chatbook. When we started with a trial on the phone, and there are two versions. So one version was using WhatsApp. I don't know whether you use WhatsApp there, but it's a messaging service. The other version was using a web interface on a tablet. So for both versions, what we did was we ingested a book that is I would say, one of the most important, if not the most important book on Singapore history that's called 700 Years, A History of Singapore. So I worked with the four authors, the four very famous historians in Singapore who wrote this book to say, do you mind if I put this book into the Gen AI? I will ensure that it's protected and it's protected. So it never leaves the system to be ingested or trained to be used for training an external large language model. It's all done within National Library Board and within NLB, and only we have the key to access it. Even all the searches that are made are kept within the system. So with all that assurance, then the author said, okay, we're willing to try. So we put this out, and you could actually have a chat on WhatsApp, just like you would with a friend, except that this is a book that you're talking to, and it will respond to you with answers about Singapore history, together with the excerpt of the page that of the book that you're looking for. And this book is not available on the internet. So the information that you get from this very important book will be different from what you get in ChatGPT. That ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude Sonnet, all of these are enough for you to answer questions. But a lot of content, as we librarians and archivists know, are not digitized yet. And some of them, due to rights issues, are not out on the internet. So this offers us an opportunity. What if we can offer content in a protected environment that is not available on the internet? And if we can do that, we can offer a service that is distinctively unique from whatever you can see on the internet. I want to draw attention to that little yellow bubble at the bottom of the screen called fail fast, fail small. Each of these experiments, as you can see, are very, very fast. They were done in months. From the point we say go to the point of launch, it was in months. The months itself include a lot of conceptualization by the librarians. So the actual programming time was in weeks. Why do I say that the librarians did a lot of work? When we did these projects, it was very important for us when we go to a tech giant to not just be a librarian going, can you help me? We cannot do that. So what we did was we almost created all the storyboards. So the librarians work with me. Together, we come up with the storyboards of how every frame would be like. And after we finished the conceptualization, then we brought the tech giants in to say, can you achieve this? And with what they know is possible, they were able to help us to develop the service from end to end. And in the process, we'll be talking a lot. We've noticed that the tech giants have been very, very excited about this because they see this as an opportunity for generative AI to, number one, have a positive effect, and number two, have a case for usage that they have not imagined. Okay, let me go to the second version of chatbook. So the first version was on your phone and on your tablet, your iPad. Then we said, okay, but how do we do something that's different from whatever ChatGPT or Gemini is doing? We created a in-person version. So you can see in the top right-hand corner, there's this giant book. So that's another book that we persuaded the author to help us to put inside. The book has 2 volumes. It's on one of the founding fathers of Singapore, and it's about 1,200 pages. That's a lot. And unless you're a librarian like me who has to read the book for work, very few people would actually finish reading the book. So I spoke to the author. I said, Irene, who's the biographer, would you like to try this experiment? So we ingested the 1,200 pages, and this is added on to the 700-year history of Singapore that I talked about earlier. We put in all the articles that the librarians have been writing for generations about Singapore history. These are electronic resources. We put it in. We put in all the other publications, and then we have one secret sauce that the large language models outside LLMs have not been using so much: oral history. We had thousands and thousands of hours. So we put it all into the system. And what we did differently was that we created an actual environment. So in the environment was an exhibition of all the artifacts and all the documents that the founding father had. So there will be things like his written notes, there will be books that he loved, they'll be all around. So a person now not only gets to experience the generative AI discovery process, which to me is a new kind of reference service, they also get to consult the materials that are around. So it was, as you remember from my very first, from my very first or second slide earlier, it is the digital experience of Gen AI. It's not purely on your phone. And the interface this time, we also changed it. So on one side, you have the digital archivist responding to you. And on the other side, you would have the oral history and the sources being read out. At the end of the entire session that you have with the book, you can download every single source that we have just consulted, and you'll be able to link to them and consult them. Yeah, so this, as you notice, had an even higher success factor than the chatbot that was on the phone. And again, the time was ridiculously fast, the way that we did it, ridiculously fast. Okay, so we did all these things, and then I started thinking a lot. And this is something I've been thinking a lot about. I don't know whether in your country you're also nervous about this. I'm always very anxious about the next generation. There's this book called The Anxious Generation. It was a very big hit in the United States. And it is about how children, by being attached so much to their phones, to their tablets, uh, becoming becoming depressed and having great difficulty with concentration, and they are called in this author's terms the anxious generation. So when I was reading it, I was very disturbed. I was very disturbed that if the library were to migrate fully onto the phone and into the tablet, then we are contributing to the growing of this anxious generation. So I said, okay, Jean, you got to do something about that. So let me tell you what we've been working on. Okay, so everything that I've done so far in the previous one, uh, they are prototypes, but they have reached almost 500,000 people. And in the process, we've also educated uh, a lot of people about generative AI. So all these prototypes reach 500,000. Our education efforts for Gen AI have reached 2.5 million. I don't know whether that sounds big to you, but Singapore's population is about 6 million, so it's quite a lot to be able to reach this kind of target. Okay, so we did all these prototypes. The trick about prototyping in the library world is that you can't stop there. You have to go big. And the description is how do you scale up quite dramatically so that it makes a larger impact. So for us, we decided to go for the biggest possible impact. So earlier when I showed you the chat book, you know that looks like a book standing up, we had timed it with the launch of the book because we knew that the Prime Minister of Singapore is going to launch it, and a lot of cabinet ministers are going to be there. So we created that with a purpose. I think as librarians, sometimes we need to be um, very good at seizing opportunities. So I knew that the Prime Minister was going to be there. So we created that exhibition that they all had to go through. And then after that, we had an offer to do something really, really big. And this is called the Albatross file. So this came from the Rajaratnam chat book. So let me tell you a little bit about what this project is. So because we are also in the National Archive is also with the National Library Board, we hold a lot of what we call classified documents. And these are oral history from our founding fathers that have just been declassified. And it tells a very different story about how Singapore came about. So if you guys like fiction, you might have read Da Vinci Code by Dan Brown and some others like National Treasure. There was once a movie by Nicolas Cage, and they all talked about how history is actually different from what you remember. So this is it. So with the declassification of some of these archival materials, we realized that Singapore's history and the way you look at it is going to change with the chat book that I showed you earlier, uh, we were approached to do this. We said, can you create an experience of all these materials related to Singapore that's secret until today, until now? We are going to release information. We're going to create a new narrative for how Singapore came about. So this is SG60's capstone event. SG60 is Singapore's 60th year of independence. So this year is Singapore's 60th year of independence. And there are major events. So this is the capstone event, which means it's going to close the year. So I was very proud that we managed to get the attention of the Prime Minister to be able to do a project that's as big as this. So to share with you what this project is, there are a lot of exhibits of the actual material. So the actual documents that if you read it will show a very different version of Singapore. So you can see with very large sets that are done. A lot of these are interactive. It almost looks like a movie set. In fact, if I may share with you, the one in the center, the clock in the middle, it is modeled after Harry Potter. I don't know whether you guys speak Harry Potter. It's very big in Singapore. So Harry Potter, there's something called a map, you know, a Marauders map. Okay, so when Harry Potter was in his school Hogwarts, Harry Potter, there were these pair of twins, the Weasley twins, they had red hair and all that. They gave him this map. So when you open it, you can see where Professor Dumbledore is moving. You can see the movements of everybody in Hogwarts. So the librarians and me, we work with the designer to create a clock, which is like the map of the world. And you can see the Singaporean founding fathers moving around and all that. So it creates a sense of place and exhibition. But in the top right-hand corner, you can see the top the top corner is our generative AI. And I'm going to spend a bit of time telling you about that. Okay, so it's shaped very much like a consultation room. Yeah, in fact, it looks a little bit like there was a TV show called Loki. It looks very much like that. So what do you actually do here? Okay, so this is an evolution from the chat book that I talked about. We decided, why don't we create a reference service that's also like an exhibition? Okay, so this reference service works like that. It is a giant screen in front of you, yeah, but the giant screen reacts to you in a very different way. So when you're at the kiosk and you ask a question, you can ask any question. We have put in all the files from National Archives related to this part of Singapore's history. We'll put in all the materials you heard earlier. And what happens when you ask a question? So when you ask a question, then the system will be able to pull out, first of all, the answer. So in museums, right, you always start with introduction panel. So that comes out, introduction panel comes out. And then all these frames will start to fill up, just like an art piece, except this time it fills up with documents from National Archives and the National Library. And then there will be a caption, a sort of text description, and that's also generated on the fly. So based on the question that you ask, a person will get an instant exhibition of an introduction, pieces of documents that's related to that, and then the description of each document that answers your question. And you can keep doing this. And the way that we do this, a teacher could stand in front of this machine, ask the questions, come up with the instant exhibition, and then take all their students through it. So rather than just having it on your phone where it's just a one-to-one experience and it's really small, now you get to see the history of Singapore played out as an instant exhibition depending on the question that you are asking. Okay, so that is the first large-scale implementation of generative AI. Now the second one. So if you remember Story Gen just now, which is the first one, where you get to see a comic strip of a very famous story. So earlier we talked about the experience, which is a capstone event to close the year for Singapore. Now that's not it. We also work very hard to get the attention of our minister and subsequently the entire Singapore cabinet to do this project called Heart and Soul Experience. So this is the flagship event of Singapore's 60th year independence. So in 1 year, because of all our generative AI efforts that were imaginative enough to capture the attention of our political leaders, we managed to nab the two biggest events of the year for Singapore, the flagship as well as the capstone event. So let me tell you about this and how it works. So you can see that there's a figure here. So that's a digital librarian. You might think, what's going to happen to all the poor librarians now that we're doing this? Well, the librarians did a lot of work. I'm going to tell you about it, but let me take you through this first. So you would be at a boarding station where you talk to a digital librarian and you could have a conversation with a digital librarian. So you have a chat with them and Singapore has 4 official languages: English, Mandarin, which is Chinese, Malay, as well as Tamil, which is one of the languages in India. So this represents the four major races in Singapore. It's very hard to find a librarian who can speak all 4 languages. I can only speak two, which is English and Mandarin. So this librarian, depending on your preference, will speak to you in a language of your choice, except that instead of offering you a book or a resource, you can ask about the future of Singapore, because Heart and Soul is about the future of Singapore. So what we librarians did was we pulled together all the content on all the future plans in every government agency in Singapore. We put it all together into a data set. And in that data set, we created what we will call tags for each of them. So when you talk to the digital librarian and you share your aspirations and your wishes, the Gen AI will pick out those aspirations and then they will match you with the future that the librarians have just meta tagged. Yeah. So there will be different characters that the librarians have created based on different types of Singaporeans and their wishes. And then they will do the match. Then Gen AI will be able to create a 25-second video that's personal to the visitor. So you literally see yourself in the future of Singapore fulfilling aspirations. And all this is possible because the librarians have worked very hard to create all these assets from the master plans and then feed this to the generative AI. On the right side, we create a place-based experience where we show the oral history of people who witnessed the coming of Singapore. I'll take you through the other parts. Now, this is the one that I'm very proud of. So earlier you saw in StoryGen, right? You have 5 sort of panels from comic strips. So this is a giant screen that wraps around here as well as on top. So when a visitor to the library, and this is at one of the libraries, is ongoing now, we just welcome our 900,000 visitor. So as you come to this session and you've already spoken to the librarian, first you'll see yourself walking together with all your participants in the future of Singapore. We use Unreal Engine to create the future of Singapore. You walk around, and at the end of the whole sequence, there's a surprise. The ceiling drops down, a personal screen of yours comes on, and your 25-second video of you in the future will come to life. Yeah, and all this is possible because of Gen AI. Now, you ask yourself, how is it going to be applied to a library? Well, the engine has been built. So what we hope to do in the future is the National Library and National Archives host a lot of materials on Singapore. So with this engine, we are able to now not only show you walking around in future Singapore, but in future we can create you walking around in historical Singapore. And after you're excited about this, you can download all the resources, including our photos, our footage, and also National Library articles on all the great places in Singapore. Yeah, so in a way, by taking this national, using something that is not so familiar to libraries, which is the future of Singapore, we have created an engine to be able to do that. And you can also see here in the rest of Heart and Soul, interesting things like in this space that's called Library Superstore, we have books, and every book is the start of something else. So when you take a book out and you use our device to scan it, snap a picture, it explodes into many other books that you could also check out. So while we might only have 10,000 books, every book is your way to access many, many, many more books. And we are able to then create a list for you based on the books that you like, and you can borrow all of them using our mobile app. Yeah, and then as they leave, they will be able to collect that personalized future trailer. And in the future, you'll be able to collect your trailer of yourself walking the past. So if you're interested, for instance, in your mom or your dad, maybe they've passed away, but they have left their diary with you, your diary can be the start for this engine to pull together almost like a sort of documentary of mom and dad's life with all the resources available from the National Library and the National Archives. Okay, I think I'm almost done. Okay, so this is what I talked about earlier. Okay, so now I've spoken a lot. I hope you're still there. It's early in the morning. I have 3 videos to show you to demonstrate what I'm talking about. The first video to be played is the Heart and Soul experience. So if you could play that, that would be great.
Step inside a place where time flows not by seconds, but by stories told. Where echoes of the past meet the promise of what's to come. This is where history comes alive around you. From headlines etched in time to windows of a digital era, you journey across time and see the future begin to take shape. Here, the sky opens wide, and you peek and find yourself in the future. Wander through a playground of ideas where the future feels close enough to touch. This is where curiosity takes flight and discovery is around every corner. So come with wonder, come with hope, and together rediscover the meaning of home.
Thank you so much. So that is the first video, and that is related to the flagship experience called Heart and Soul. I don't have a video for the Singaporean yet because that's only opening 7th of December. But that's a permanent exhibition, so if you're ever in town in Singapore, I hope you can come visit us at National Library. The second video shows you, I think it's Story Gen. So could we play that as well? Thanks.
We all love a classic tale, but what if you had the power to add your own twist? Welcome to StoryGen. Experience the magic when human creativity meets generative AI. Get started by reimagining stories. Tap on Create Your Story. Choose from a set of well-loved stories. Select a genre. Pick a location. Choose your characters. Determine how the story ends and let Gen AI do its magic. Here, the AI reimagines the story based on your selected options. Images are also generated to create a visual storytelling experience. Tap on Publish My Book and watch your reimagined story come to life.
Thank you very much. Okay, the final video. Okay, this is the last one, and then we'll go into Q&A. The last video is on chatbook, and the one that I'm showing you is the one that we did for the one of the founding fathers of Singapore. You know, the one with the giant book. So you could show that, then after that we can have some questions. Thank you.
Step into the world of S. Rajaratnam, where the generative AI-powered chatbook featuring S. Rajaratnam takes center stage. This is NLB's first public version of the chatbook prototype, building upon the positive response and feedback from the testing of the first prototype chatbook, 700 Years, A History of Singapore. Chatbook featuring S. Rajaratnam offers users a unique multimodal experience where visitors can converse with a digital archivist by typing and speaking in an interactive space inspired by S. Rajaratnam's love for reading and writing. Visitors can engage with the chatbook by entering a question into the typewriter or speaking into the microphone. To find out more about S. Rajaratnam's life and his contributions to Singapore's political history.
Who was S. Rajaratnam?
The chatbook generates a concise response drawn from multiple sources, reflecting the rich history of S. Rajaratnam.
S. Rajaratnam was a pivotal figure in Singapore's history, shaping the nation's development as one of its founding leaders. Born on the 25th of February 1915 in Jaffna, Sri Lanka, Rajaratnam's journey to becoming a key architect of modern Singapore is truly fascinating.
What was S. Rajaratnam's legacy?
Rajaratnam's commitment to multiculturalism is perhaps best exemplified by largely drafting Singapore's national pledge in 1966. His powerful statement, recited daily in schools, embodies his vision of a Singaporean's Singapore.
Users can also download a bibliography of the source materials referenced for the responses to their questions by scanning a QR code. Check out the bite-sized information and selection of physical books at the book displays, while exploring online resources and ebooks on S. Rajaratnam that can be obtained by scanning a QR code. Discover Singapore stories with chatbook featuring S. Rajaratnam.
Thank you so much for spending time with me. And now I'll be happy for Slovenia to start doing it as well and to do better than me, because that's what librarians are about. We should always share and do better.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.